Hi, third graders. Welcome to lesson 23 for module 7. Today we're going to solve a variety of word problems with perimeter. So today's lesson is going to put together all of those things that we've been learning about perimeter that are in your brain. See, that's supposed to be like a brain. So all the things floating around, all your knowledge about polygons, your read, draw, write strategy, because we're using word problems today, so you've got to use your RDW strategy. What you know about area versus perimeter, the inside of a shape versus the outside of a shape. That when you have perimeter of a rectangle, you've got width times length. And today we're really going to be focusing on, does my answer make sense? So let's go ahead and get started. We know that when we start with a word problem with our RDW strategy, first we're going to read our word problem and then we're going to draw anything that we can. So remember, after we read our word problem, we're going to think, you're going to ask yourself, can I draw something from this word problem to help me understand it better? What can I draw? What can I figure out from my drawing? So remember, drawing and making models is how you start to put all the clues together that are given to you in the word problem, and it shows you what information you're missing so that you know what you're supposed to be figuring out. So let's go ahead and look at that with our first problem. So Ben makes a square on his paper with a perimeter of 16 inches. What are the side lengths of the square? All right, so on your notes, I want you guys to ask yourselves, can you draw something? What can you draw? And what can you figure out from your drawing? So on your notes, I want you to draw anything that you can from this paper, from this word problem, and think about what can you figure out from that drawing. Go ahead and try that. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, so you guys have been doing this all year long, so I assume that you're pretty good at it, but we could always use more practice. So as soon as I see that Ben makes a square, I know that I can draw a square that is similar to what Ben made. So I'm going to make my square. And then I see that there's a perimeter. So I know that perimeter is going to be the distance around all of the edges of the shape, or adding up all the side lengths of the shape. Okay, so my next clue is that the perimeter has 16 inches. So that means that this side plus this side plus this side plus this side are all going to be 16 inches. And then it asks, what are the side lengths of the square? So it's not saying that one side length is 16, like one of the side lengths is 16. It's saying that the perimeter together is 16. Okay, so how am I going to show how the 16 is made? Well, let's go ahead and write an equation to solve. So there's a few ways that I can think about that. So I can think that my perimeter is 16, and that equals this side plus this side plus this side plus this side all added up. What do we know about a square, about all the sides of a square, that will help us figure this out? All the sides of the square are going to be equal. So all of these numbers are going to be the same exact number. So that actually helps me write a different equation. So I could think 16 divided by 4 sides of a square equals the length of each side of the square. So 16 divided by 4, so 4, 8, 12, 16. So that would be 4. And my units are inches. So 4 inches. So let me see if that works. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, is that 16? So that would be 8 plus 8, which is 16. And that makes sense. So my drawing and my equation work together to help me figure out the side lengths of the square. How did you guys do? We're not done. The last step of solving a word problem, honestly, just any math problem, is thinking, is your answer reasonable? So is your answer reasonable? Reasonable means, does it make sense? So does it make sense? Okay, so I know that my answer is reasonable. And then here are some sentence frames that can help you prove that you know that your answer is reasonable. So you can say, because I reread the question to remind myself that it asks for, and then you could prove that you know that you're answering the right part of the question. Or because my answer matches what the question asks. I know this because, so does your answer match what the question asks? I know my answer is reasonable because my answer is not too big or too small. I know this because. So if you had accidentally thought that each side of the square was 16 because you didn't notice that 16 was the perimeter, and you went to go add up all the 16s, and then you noticed that it has a perimeter of 16, then you would realize my answer is not reasonable. My perimeter was too big, so I misunderstood what the 16 was all about. So I'm going to use this one. So I know that my answer is reasonable because my answer matches what the question asks. I know this because right here it asks, what are the side lengths of the square with a perimeter of 16 inches? So the total perimeter is 16, and the square has equal sides. How did you guys know that your answer was reasonable? Can you use one of these sentence frames to tell yourself why you know that your answer was right? Go ahead and try that with yourself. Press pause and press play when you're done. Okay, here's our next question. SpongeBob uses sticks to make two 20-inch by 10-inch rectangles. What is the total perimeter of the two rectangles? All right, so I'd like you guys to go ahead and do the read and draw, and then write an equation part of your word problem. Go ahead and figure out what you can. Press pause and press play when you're done. All right, let's go through the RDW process together here. So looking at my problem, SpongeBob uses sticks to make two 20-inch by 10-inch rectangles. So already I see that I could draw a model of what those rectangles look like. So I'm going to draw one rectangle here, and it says 20-inch by 10-inch. So when you see that, remember that just means width by length. So we would have our, or sometimes vice versa. So our longer measurement is obviously going to be the longer side. So in this case, it's going to be length times width. So 20-inch by 10-inch. And it says that there's two of these rectangles. So we have another rectangle that is 10 by 20 inches. Okay, now, so I was able to draw something. What can I draw? I can draw my two rectangles. And what can I figure out from my drawing? Well, it asks, what is the total perimeter of the two rectangles? So do I have enough information to find out the perimeter? Yes, I do. So now I can go on to the part where I write my equation to solve. So I can do 10, and if I know that this side is 10, this side is also 10. And then if this side is 20, this side is also 20. Rules of rectangles. So I'm going to have 10 plus 10 plus 20 plus 20 for this first rectangle, which equals 10 plus 10 is 20 plus 20 plus 20 is 40. 20 plus 40, 2 10s plus 4 10s is 6 10s, so I have 60. So 60 inches for one rectangle. So since I know that for one rectangle, then two rectangles would be 60 inches plus 60 inches. 6 10s plus 6 10s is 12 10s, or 120 inches. So I added up my two perimeters. we're not done because now we need to see, is my answer reasonable? So all of us together are going to write the sentence this time. So I would like you guys to write with me, my answer is reasonable because. So why does your answer make sense? So what helped you know that your answer made sense? Did you look back in the question to make sure that you had the right answer? Did your answer match what the question asked? Or did you realize that your answer was not too big or not too small? So for me, mine was that I reread the question to remind myself what it asked for, because I wanted to make sure. It was a little tricky having to remember that I needed to add up 2 rectangles perimeters, not just 1. So I'm going to put, my answer is reasonable because, let me make sure this is on the video. Okay, because my answer matches what the question asks. I know this because the question asks the perimeter of 2 rectangles, 10 by 20. Okay. Oops, I just knocked some stuff over. All right, and I realized that originally I thought that I'd use this one, but I use this one, and these kind of ask almost the same thing, but I know that it matches because I had to use 2 rectangles. 2 rectangles. Okay, so how did you know that your answer is reasonable? Go ahead and pick one of these sentences to fill out and write on your notes. All right, go ahead and do that. Press pause so that you can copy down one of the sentences, and then press play when you're done. For this final problem, after I'm done talking, you might just want to press pause so that the screen is frozen on the problem and on the chart to help you with your RDW. So our final problem today is Steve draws a square and a rectangle as shown below to represent a castle that has a dungeon. What is the total perimeter of the castle and the dungeon? So when you put those 2 together, what's the perimeter? So I want you guys to do your RDW strategy. Now this is nice because it's already been drawn for you. So on A, you're going to write your equation to solve, but you might notice that you're going to have to fill in some of the information to your drawing. And then B, explain how you know that your answer is reasonable. So I know my answer is reasonable because, and then you're going to say on one of these, how did you know that your answer was reasonable? All right, so that is your final problem. Good luck, you guys, and we will be talking about this more tomorrow in class. Have a great night.